Welcome back to Impact Effect Podcast. I'm fired up today because we've got Barb in the studio, Barb Abramson, and she is the founder of Making Meaningful Connections. So you know we're going to have a great conversation today, and I'm again just so fired up to sit down with her. We've been talking about getting together, doing this for several weeks, and we're finally here today. So thank you for being here, Barb.
Thank you so much. I am excited to be here.
Let's go. It's going to be
right.
a good combo. So as we always start every episode, I ask every guest the same question. How do you define impact? And how do you show up in the world and provide impact today?
I love that question.
I knew you would.
Impact to me is about getting people to open their mind to possibilities and to think in a new direction.
Ooh.
I believe there's three sides to every story, and if you are only in the line of what you believe to totally be true, you may be missing opportunities. So if you can be impacted to open your mind and consider other things, your world can expand.
I love that. I love the concept around possibilities. Dive into that. Like, is there an example, or what type of possibilities come from being open to impact?
So many different things. We all have our own thoughts and our feelings and our values. A word to you might mean something different to me. I think we've had that discussion before. And so you might use a word that I'm like, oh, I don't agree with that word. And I may decide not to like that person. But then when I hear what that person really means by that word or that phrase or that concept, I'm like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Wow. And it can just open up so many opportunities, because when you're narrowly focused, that tunnel vision, you miss out on everything else that's going on that could be great.
All you're living is what you know based on how you define that word. It's so interesting to me, and I love how you break it down, because it can be one word. One word out of a slew of words, a conversation, a written paragraph, a blog, like however you get your communication out to the world, it can be that one word that there's a difference of perspective. And then what comes after that?
Right.
Judgment, right? Like tell me more. Dive into this. I love this, where this is going.
So I've shared this example a lot with the word power. So let me ask you right now, define power as it means to you right now in this moment.
It's having a lot of momentum, thrust, and energy within one segmentation of life that allows you to leverage it at the highest levels.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard electricity. I've heard God. I've heard freedom. I have heard negative, like control.
Yeah.
I know people who have experienced many different things. And I had 20 people sit down and write their definition of that word. And I got 20 literally different definitions. And somebody can hear that word and hear someone's definition, or have had a bad experience with the word, and they're like, oh, I don't like that person. I don't want to know that person. We don't have the same values. But if they heard the definition of it, it might be, oh, I never thought about it being freedom, or the ability to make my own choices, or joy, or electricity, or any of those things, and or how we're referencing it. So when you can take a step back, when you can open your mind, open your heart, there's so much more that can flow into you.
Do you think that speed, or the way of how vast the world works today, has an effect on this? Like, do you think people aren't saying, oh, can you define, or can you tell me more about that statement? Or do you think that we're just speeding through to, that person said that, they must mean this, they're an idiot, I don't like them, I never want to talk to them ever again, and I keep on moving on because see you never, I don't need you, this is what I believe, and I keep going. Do you think speed, or the way of the world today, has an effect on kind of us not stopping and diving deeper? Because when you just said power to me, I'm like, well, now I haven't really thought about it. So now I'm like changing my definition, and I'm thinking through of like, well, now I need to talk to more people about this
Yeah.
because I'm evolving my position on the word,
And
like when you said joy, I was like, wow, power can bring joy.
yeah,
Like that's the emotion I want behind it, happiness or joy.
joy is one of my major words in my life. The thing about it too is that it can evolve and it can mean different things in different situations. So it's not just this, it could be this. It's very expansive, and any word can be. And to answer your question about the speed of the world today, I agree 100%. Back in my childhood, we didn't have the internet. My parents were one of the first to get a TV on, when they were kids. Life is very different, and we are inundated now with technology. AI is everywhere. There are so many things that are going fast, so many things moving so quickly that sometimes we don't have the time to stop, to process, to think, dive deeper, like you said. Asking somebody, tell me more, because that doesn't always happen. We're like, okay, on to the next thing. And so I think definitely life is moving at a speed. You need to stop and smell the roses, literally, because there's just a lot going on.
You got to stop and smell the roses. What a powerful statement, especially in 2025 as we shoot this,
Yeah. And we also look at the world through our own lenses. What did you learn as a child? How were you brought up? A lot of people are the thoughts they have, the religion they are, the way that they react to things because of the environment they learned in. And so they carry that with them. It's normal. It makes sense. And for some, it's perfect for their whole life to be that way. And others sometimes stop and say, what else is there? And there's no wrong or right in that, but that's just sort of a generalization of we are, through the lenses we have, what we know.
What advice would you have for someone that's trying to get out of the environment or get out of those learned lessons or trying to smell the roses and experience different types of roses or different colors of roses? Like, what would you share with that person who's right at that cusp of, I want more, I want to explore or see what's out there or look at things differently? What advice would you give them?
Engage with others in a deeper way. Ask questions. Tell me more about that. How did you come to feel that way? In the workplace, sometimes we are all busy delving into what it is we have to do, and we don't always learn enough about each other. It could happen with kids in school. It could happen in so many different arenas, sometimes on meetings, boards of directors. They come for the meeting, they answer the questions they have to, they vote on things, and they're out the door. And they're not invested in each other. And when you can be invested in each other, when you can care enough about each other, you're going to care more about what you're working on together. You're going to want to help others more. Try and avoid the negativity. It is going to happen, and kindness can go a long way. Sometimes somebody can have a bad attitude. You don't know what's going on in their life at all. Kindness, a smile, hey, how are you? Can I do anything for you? All of those things can make a huge impact on somebody who's angry at the world for something we know nothing about.
Goosebump moment.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. Wow. I just witnessed this, what you just said. So the impact that a smile can have on someone, right? So we were leaving the grocery store literally yesterday, and we're going out, and I'm about to load the stuff in and load Ellie, my 2-year-old, and she's antsy and she's trying to get the grapes and she's hungry and she needs a snack. And I'm like, grapes, kids choke on grapes, right? Like those are like the one thing you don't. Caitlin will tell me all about it.
Haven't cut them up yet.
You got to cut them up. So, it was just kind of a little bit of chaos. And this woman, she just smiled and looked at Ellie, and Ellie kind of like caught her. And Ellie's whole mood changed. Whole mood. To where I came home and I told Caitlin about it. Because it was impactful to me to witness. Right? And I'm like, so then she was happy, and then we're back to joking, and I didn't have to give her the grapes, right? I didn't want her to swallow the grapes and choke while I'm driving down the street and she's in the back. But it was that person's impact. And we don't know that woman. We've never seen that woman. Ellie comes grocery shopping with me once a week because it's our fun little thing we do sometimes. Yeah. But just that smile. And then it was even funnier because 2 days ago I wrote in my phone, it's over there, but I wrote, "Your smile is the best business card." And it was just something that came to my mind. I have a little note sections called Quotes of Wisdom. Whether I say something or if I'll put something you say and I'll put a dash there and who said it, just to remind me of positive things that motivate me in the moment so I can reflect on when I'm having maybe a down day or some negativity in the mind or some, mental clarity is not there or, there's challenges. And it just comes back to something as simple as the smile. So when you just said that, I was like, it can be that easy. It can take minimal effort,
I love that you shared this because, one, I know you enough to know that you're going to pay that forward and you're going to smile at somebody else. It is the littlest thing. Just, walking in our neighborhood, we don't know all our neighbors, but we pass somebody, "Hey, good morning. How are you today?" "Good, thank you. How about you?" "Good." Just that little tiny conversation can lift people up. They may be walking down the street and thinking about something that went wrong in their day, and that connection of a soul to a soul in a positive way can be, "Oh, thank you." And they may not say thank you outside, but you can see that maybe their shoulders relaxed, and sharing that of the woman in the store, that was awesome. That was awesome. That's a great little post too.
Yeah.
To put out there is sharing how that smile changed the environment and made it better.
Change the environment. I think that's the key to that advice for that person who wants to change their environment is start to do things internally or start to do things that you can change and progress outward that will change others' environment and your environment will change too, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's, if taking a positive outlook can be difficult if you're in a bad way, but if you can just take a breath, take a moment, find one thing to be grateful for and focus on it, it can be magical. It can lift that weight off a little bit. And when you give a kindness to somebody else, it does something to us inside, right? You're not doing it for the recognition externally, but if you do it because it makes you feel good to help somebody else, you're going to feel better.
There was a period of time, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, where I texted someone and was just sending them some love. Like, I see what you're doing. Keep going. I know you're spending a lot of money and you're building and all this stuff, right? And it was in the early startup of doing what he was doing. And so I just wanted to show some love, make him feel heard and seen. And he just kind of liked the message. And it was and it was a paragraph, and it was well thought out. It wasn't ChatGPT. It wasn't, hey, keep crushing it, bro. Or, it wasn't like emoji. It wasn't this tasteless message. It was crafted. And at that point I was upset initially because I was like, wow, they just discarded it. Like a thumbs up, no, thanks, man. Or, hey, how are you? Or hope you're having a good day. None of that. And I sat with myself and I was like, the objective here was not to get a response. The objective here was for me to do what was on my heart and soul and to reach out and tell someone how I feel so they feel heard, recognized, and seen. And that's what I've accomplished. So what do I know to be true is I did what I said I wanted to do. And the response, I'm not playing for the outcome.
Exactly.
Not playing for the response. But that was tough. And that was a very I got to give a little kudos to me, not to sit here and talk, oh, I'm so great. But I'm shocked that I had that emotional awareness in that moment. And I think if I can just start to have a little bit more of that and more present with it, I won't have that initial like, oh, I'm upset. Why didn't they respond?
Right. And again, you don't know what's going on in their life at that moment. And you can only control you.
Yes. Yes.
And know that you did the good thing. And you never know. It might be weeks, months, whatever. And one day, maybe you'll hear, you know, that message you sent me a long time ago, I'm feeling it. You know, it touched me. And whether it comes or not, you're right. It's from your own heart. Yeah. And that's where you have to live. It's from your own heart.
So talking about heart, making meaningful connections. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about meaningful. How do you define meaningful? I'm excited to hear this because I know there's going to be some depth here. But when I see that term and I know you, mm-hmm. let's pull it out of you. Let's extract it. Like tell us about it.
So we connect with people all day long. Hi, nice to meet you. How are you? And we move on. A meaningful connection goes back to our earlier conversation of finding those common ground issues, finding things about each other that we didn't know. And whether you have it in common or not, it could be, that's really cool. Tell me more. Appreciating people, finding ways to really deeply connect. And whether it's with kids to help them find things in common and create positive relationships. There's so much bullying going on in the world. It's really sad. I was reading this morning about a little boy who's on the spectrum who was in music, and he says, I want to quit because they don't accept me. The other kids don't accept me. And that's really hard for a mom, especially to hear as well.
Totally.
But when kids can find things that connect them in positive ways, and again, you don't know where the other kids came from, what their background is, what they've learned or what they've taught, but if you could help them find ways to see people in a different light from maybe what they know, or if it was negative, or to find ways to accept and understand and open their arms, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And there's a beautiful program here called Best Buddies, and they take children that might be on the spectrum or have Downs and match them with other children that don't, and they teach them to find those things that connect them. And boy, is that ever meaningful. The director of Best Buddies in Middle Tennessee told me recently that the young man he was matched with when they were both teenagers is his best friend today.
Wow.
Isn't that awesome? I'm like, wow.
Wow.
That is just so fantastic. So meaningful is not just, hey, how are you? But I want to hang with you. I want to know more about you. I want to support you. I want to be in your life. And to me, it goes back to that word joy. Being around people that make you feel joy, it's the best. So kids are one example. Teenagers, adults. I like to talk about the things that bring us happiness with our five senses. And it's a program that I do a lot for the seniors community because it's a great way for them to talk about the things in their lives that brought them joy. Because, what toy did you play with? No little girls play with paper dolls these days. But my mom loved paper dolls. And if you don't know what they are, to be a little cardboard figure and little clothes or paper with little tabs, and you can change their clothes and things like that, and all different outfits. And my mom loved those. You don't see paper dolls today. But when they talk about that, and another one, somebody says, I had those too. Me too. I love that. And now suddenly they have someone they can talk to about something that they may not have known before. That shared interest, that common ground, it's really cool to see those. I had a guy talk about his favorite sight was cotton blooming. Now, I've never seen cotton bloom. I grew up in Florida. We didn't have cotton. But he talked about how it went from the seed to the bud and opened up and was this beautiful bloom of cotton.
Wow.
I was fascinated. Like, I want to see cotton bloom now.
Listen to though how that person can describe that
Yeah.
because they've lived it, they
Mhm.
have an experience, it's meaningful to them.
Yeah.
And now look at the impact
Mhm.
that they just had on you.
Yeah.
And now me, like I'm gonna go Google cotton and watch a video about it because
That's it.
I don't think I've ever seen cotton ever.
No.
Like,
But,
or the plant.
right, the plant and just in the clothes.
Yeah.
And so
Wow.
that was like, I was fascinated. And another woman at this session said, oh my gosh, I've never met anybody else who talked about cotton growing. And she said, I could almost feel the pricks in my finger from picking the cotton, you know?
Wow.
And she said, but I've never, to me, it was like always, ugh. And then when you mentioned that, I thought, yeah, it was really pretty. Just hurt my fingers. And they had a good chuckle and a laugh. And
Connection.
that was like the best to see that. So there are some really fun stories with that. And then going into the business community, boards of directors or sometimes companies, people come in, they do their thing and they go back to their own lives. And it doesn't mean you have to be best friends with everybody you encounter in life, but when you can maybe find something in common or understand, a lot of it is about understanding, being open. So I was on a behavioral health board, and I've shared this story a few times. And I asked people to partner up with someone they didn't know and share some things. And one of them was, why are you part of this organization? And there was a guy who had been a drug abuser, and he wanted to get clean, and he did. And then he said, you know what? I want to help others. That touched a lot of hearts. Oh, wow, yeah. And there was a woman whose brother took his life, and she wanted to help others. And nobody knew that. And it was like when people are safe, feel in a safe place to be vulnerable, that's when those walls break down. That's when those connections are made. It's hard to make connections through a brick wall, right? When those walls can be dissolved, and being vulnerable isn't easy for everybody. And again, looking at life through our own glasses and what happens in our own lenses. But when that happens, it's amazing because somebody you may have thought, oh, this person and I have nothing in common. I'll talk to other people. And suddenly you're like, wow, maybe you knew somebody that had happened with. And you suddenly like, hey, I heard what you said. Maybe I have something that makes sense about that or whatever. Or I just want to tell you, you're doing amazing stuff. Whatever it is, it just melts stuff away, and it's like the sun comes out. It's amazing.
That joy occurs.
Yeah.
That you're talking about.
Yeah. And you want to spend more time. You want to go deeper. And then hopefully you want to experience that with more people.
True. I was having a good conversation yesterday with someone, and they had asked me, in those moments when someone's sharing and they're super vulnerable, how do you perceive the social interaction? Meaning, like, do you say, oh, I've been through that too, and you start to share more, or do you just sit back and listen? I'd be curious to hear what your kind of perception is on how to handle the social interaction, because you want to align, you want to show interest, but how do you decipher or discern, do I share all my details? Do I just say I've been through something similar, and do I just let you talk? How do you kind of analyze that situation?
If you just jump in with, oh, that happened to me too, it sort of puts a block up. You really have to learn to listen. It's very common for us to want to say, me too. Oh, I've been there. Oh, I get that. And you're sort of, in a way, shutting that other person off from their expression. So there's a point where it's listening, comforting, nodding, whatever it is, but give them the space, truly to give them the space and let them know that you understand And maybe you don't share yours immediately. It might be at another time, because that person may not really feel heard. It might be, oh, they just wanted to talk about themselves instead. And so maybe it's asking a question, asking how they're doing now, anything I can do to help. Just validating, I think, is huge.
Yeah.
So often we want to jump in and say, oh, I get it, I've been there too. And sometimes that person just may feel like they weren't heard.
It's almost like they were discarded because it was so important to them, and the emotions were rising and they were so high, and then they dump, right? Because that's what we do when we get deep. We tend to dump.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I have talked about it, and some of the events that I've done of how do we protect it so it's not just a
right.
wah, but
wah.
wah, but there is a little bit of a dump there, because it's something when you get vulnerable that most people are holding in. Yes. So it is that breakthrough, but I don't want it to be that.
Yeah.
And I think that's, how do you perceive that? How do you receive that? How do you take that in? I think is a skill. I think and to discern when do you share, when do you not. But you said something that I think was really important. Like, instead of that just, yeah, me too, are you really showing you're listening? Are you giving sympathy or empathy?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you kind of navigate those? Those are two pretty heavy terms.
They are. And because what comes across if you jump in to tell your own story, it means that you've turned your listening off in your, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? What am I going to say in your own head? So it's a skill.
It's a skill.
It's a skill. And I'm not perfect. I've been guilty of it. I think we all have. But it takes time to really learn how to hold that space.
Totally.
For somebody else. It's not the easiest thing, because part of us wants to connect by saying, yeah, me too. But it's to be able to have that balance. It's a learned skill.
Yep.
It's a learned skill. It's nothing that I don't have the words to say, just do this. You have to just really try and pay attention, not feel like you have to jump in and talk, sit on your hands, whatever it takes, but to really, to hear them and say, wow, I heard that. I can imagine that must have been a challenge. Thank you for trusting me to open up. That is huge. When somebody is all vulnerable, sometimes that validation of just, that was a lot. Thank you for trusting me to hear that. And that,
it feels good to just hear you say it, even though you're not saying it directly to me and I didn't just share something vulnerable. It just feels good hearing those words strung together of and it's you saying it, so I know you believe in it. You wouldn't just say it. So there's a relationship here, but just hearing that sounds good. The other thing that you said earlier that's been in my brain, and I've been trying to listen. So I'm going to come back to it. It's going to take me a second. But you had said when you're connecting with someone and, that me too, right? And I said, oh, they feel discarded or whatnot. What would you say differently in that moment? So if I just opened up and said, something vulnerable, we just had another miscarriage and say you did too, that's probably a terrible example, but you know what I mean? What would you say rather than me too, so they don't feel discarded?
Well, that example is actually kind of interesting because I have been in that situation.
Okay.
And so I actually had a couple of miscarriages. And so there was a time where I did that faux pas. And when that happens, it was like I pulled all the conversation back to me. And it's a challenging thing to be able to really hold that space. It really is a learned thing. But just sometimes just reaching out to say, I know that must have been hard.
I'm glad we chose that example because that is a hard example to navigate.
Yeah.
And you just sharing that has me thinking about a couple times where I have just jumped in and I needed to hold space.
Yeah.
Because I've said it and then someone was like, oh yeah, I'm struggling with that. And then I'm like, yeah, I am. And it was more about me. And for them that was their first time ever sharing that. For me, it wasn't.
Right.
I needed to have that emotional intelligence to realize I should have just left it.
It's learned. It's absolutely learned. And so, I mean, I've committed that myself, and I have done that with that example. It was almost like you put a light over me and you're like, yep, I've done that. But we learn.
Yeah.
We can learn. And we all want to get ourselves out there and we want to connect and we want to show that we care. Sometimes it's just, maybe it's a follow-up question to say, I hear you, like, how are you doing now? Or is there anything I can do? Or,
My default has always been, because there's some of those situations where people will open up, especially coming off of a stage or speaking. People come up to you and they're going to, and it's heavy, right?
Yeah.
Some of those side stage conversations, they're heavy. And I will just loop back to them because sometimes I don't know what to say. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I don't know enough about the problem, so I don't want to diagnose it, or I don't want to act like I've been there when I haven't, and I'll just loop back to them so they feel heard.
Yeah, that's the most beautiful thing. That's
kind of my default when I don't know. And guess what, folks? There's a lot of times that I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
A ton of times. And I think if I loop back kind of what they said, at least it gives them that space.
Right.
And I don't have to bring anything to the table. I don't have to have the same thing happen to me, or I don't have to, compare it to a negative situation there might be a through line somewhere. And I don't have to fight to bring presence to the conversation just by looping back so they feel heard and seen.
Yeah, I can imagine people being on stage, they're sharing something that's their emotional, especially when I think about TED Talks or other kinds of things, they are letting all of that out and they come off and they're like, so yes. And it's, might be a pat on the back and said, you did great, just to give them that connection in that way, as opposed to pulling away from them. And again, it's kudos to you for being able to be in that space, because it does make a huge difference. And it's definitely learned. And I mean, like I said, I've made those faux pas a lot too, but you realize sometimes, hopefully, that you don't need to validate yourself. You want to validate them. And it's just like, sometimes it's just a nod, a smile, a pat on the shoulder, anything, just to show that they have been heard. That's what we want in life, is to be heard.
Imagine if we woke up every day and we had a challenge to make sure someone felt heard every day, what that would look like for the world.
Amazing.
And it can be done on the toilet in the morning, like via text message. Like, it could be done on your walk. It could be done while you're making coffee. You can use voice, audio, right? Like, this stuff is so easy to communicate now. We don't have any excuse. It's just, how do we carve the time knowing that it's going to leave a positive impact and also internally positively impact us? I think that's the challenge of, well, we have a challenge. Maybe we run that challenge soon.
I'm just saying. I'm just thinking, let's go.
Let's do it. And we'll do it, and we'll give our examples so that way people have an understanding of where we took it different ways and different routes.
Yeah. I mean,
make an impact right now. Let's go.
What a great, motivation to wake up and say, how can I help somebody today? How can I be kind? How can I be thoughtful? How can I be open to somebody else? I love this.
I think the communication side, when I've done something similar, meaning like I asked someone for a week to reach out to 5 people that was on my team because their mindset was just low vibration. So I said, reach out to 5 people and just love on them, which I also think is a great challenge. But the struggle was, well, when I call someone it turns into a 40-minute conversation, and I really only had 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So one trick or one thing that I've done in the past is, and it's true, you don't lie about this, but I'll make those calls 15 minutes before a meeting, and I'll just let someone know, hey, I was thinking about you. I do have a meeting in 15 minutes. I know I just randomly called you. Just want to catch up with you, tell you, love you, what's going on in life, just so they know that I do have something in 15 minutes. And I do that strategically because I don't want to make a fib of it. I don't want to lie about it. But usually if I'm scheduling meetings on the 15, which is a strategy of mine now, let's do a 10:15 to 10:45. Well, at 10, I'm making a call. At 10:45 to 11, I'm making a call. I can get 2 calls in an hour and have a meeting.
Brilliant.
That's how I've dealt, got 2 little kids, 2 businesses, a lot going on, speaking, like it's summer, right? So like I've had to be super strategic with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, if someone doesn't answer, then they don't answer. That's fine too.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of energy you can leave in a voicemail.
I love that.
How nice is it when you just look down and you're like, oh, Jim called, and you click it, and we don't even listen to him these days sometimes, but you read it and it's like, hey, it's Jim. I was just thinking about you. You're on my heart. I hope you're having a good day. I saw yesterday on Facebook that you went to a meeting with Brian, and I know Brian, he's also great. I'm sure you guys had such a great time. I'm so grateful that I can just see 2 great friends together. How's things? How's life?
Fabulous. I love that. I love that. That's definitely an impact. I love that. And letting somebody know that you have something coming up, it's obviously it's honest, and it sets those parameters, and it also keeps you in a good spot because you're not like, oh my gosh, this is still going on. This is still going on. I need to go. And then you're frazzled. But
I found myself multitasking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, this is going 30 minutes, which is like, and I'm like, okay, well, I do need to do this. So I'm listening and talking, but I'm like writing and working on something else. And I'm like, that's not the cause of what I'm trying to do. So I'd rather be upfront and say, hey, I have 15 minutes. You were on my heart. I figured I'd give you a buzz. And then it's open to them being like, well, you know what? I don't have the time. Can we catch up later? Yeah, shoot me a text.
Yeah.
Hope your day's great, brother. Click.
Love it. Love it. And in today's world with all the technology, I mean, how many times have you been on a Zoom call where people have their cameras off, or you can see that they're, doing something else and multitasking, and you're not having that true connection?
The wide eye is always the one where it's like you're not looking at another human like this. You're reading something on Zoom. I'm like, whenever someone's like this, I'm like, you're reading something. You're not paying attention.
Or you get an email from them while you're both on the call.
Yeah. You're copied on it. Yeah.
So that's really fun. So, I mean, a meaningful connection to me is when it is intentional, it is about that real connection. It's not about multitasking, doing 200 things. And I really love the concept of touching those lives. You've already got my mind thinking about, I want to do this, and who am I going to reach out to, and where am I going next, and what can I do, and always to be a better listener.
Yeah, I think it's something that just we're always challenged with, and our brains work in a way where we're always thinking, and there's always thoughts flowing, and it's a beautiful thing. But how do we tame it just in the right moments?
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part for me is like, I don't want to tame those thoughts, but am I really building deep human connection with you if I'm thinking about 7 business plans? And the answer is no. It's always been no. And it's still no today. It was no yesterday. And it'll be no tomorrow. So I guess the last question I have for you that I didn't want to skip over this. You talked a lot about joy. You talked a lot about meaningful connections, working on the senses, doing workshops. Your business is founded around that. But I want to understand why. Why is this so important to you?
Well, for one, it makes me feel good to bring joy to others. When I am in a room with people and I see that change in people where they open up, there's little side note, there's, so much of overstimulation in the world with, as I mentioned, technology and the news and all the things we have to do, and our fast-paced life. Like I said, grandparents, lived on the farm and it was nice and easy, and it's now. And there's some good to that. But when I can see people stop and breathe and their hearts open up and they feel the joy, I think that's what elevates mine. When I see other people connect, I don't know if there's a why behind it, but I just know that when I experience that in others, it brings more of it to myself. And it's just come from things I've experienced in my life of, seeing kids make friends, of seeing a kid who bullied others, now looking at that other child as somebody he cares about and wants to protect, not by beating other kids up, but to be in his circle. That's like a miracle. To be in a business environment where people are so distracted and ready to get back off to the next thing, to really see that these people and I have something in common, and it's more than just voting yes on, that motion, but to be part of each other's lives. And it's just the coolest thing. And for seniors, which, having watched my parents go through aging, my father's dementia into Alzheimer's, my mother having heart issues and her illness, and they had to move to an assisted living and didn't have their car and didn't have friends. And for them being able to have some joy there and thrive, a lot of it, I think, personally came from them, and what they taught me is they were always volunteering and helping others. And I grew up in that, and I like to volunteer. My son is involved in doing things in the community. He's even got his 7-year-old working on things, and they've delivered food to the needy already. He's 7. And so I think I learned that a lot in my own family. And it makes me feel good. It brings me joy. So I guess it's just inside of me to want to bring joy to others.
I love it.
Because it brings more joy to me.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, you do that great. And
thank you.
Thank you for just sharing today on the podcast. It's been such a great episode. As always, all of our conversations are great. But I think we really went to a place that a lot of listeners are going to be able to learn from today.
I appreciate being here.
Real stories, real impact, real conversations, business, life, kids. We went through it all.
Parents.
Anything you want to leave the audience with before we depart today?
Oh, another great question. Be kind.
Be kind.
Kindness goes so far. It's more than please and thank you, but just to be kind, opening that door, smiling, it can just make a huge impact of how can I help you? It's be kind.